All right, so today's topic, should your kids go to counseling? My opinion, yes. I believe that depending on what the circumstances is, you should have your kids in counseling. I think sometimes when people go through some type of separation, that it can take an emotional toll on the kids, psychologically and emotionally. And these are things that you just got to think about, is how is it going to affect the kids? So I would say I do agree with counseling, but at the same time, I'm kind of on the fence about it. And the reason I say that is because we have a trained person that comes in here, and no matter if you're going to the person, they come into you and they're a trained psychologist or counselor, and they're talking to your kids about problems and different things like that. Keep in mind, though, that this is an absolute stranger that you don't even know. And that's just the facts of the matter, that you don't even know who this person is, but you're taking your child to this person to get some type of medical help. Which, does it make sense? It makes sense because the person is qualified in different aspects of dealing with, like, post-traumatic stress disorder. You have somebody that's dealing with they could be dealing with anxiety or depression. A lot of kids are dealing with a lot of these different things nowadays. So these things that you just want to take into consideration. The issue I think that comes into play is that, yes, it's good for them and it's beneficial, but then it's like, this kid might have had a lot of emotional problems throughout the time you were with the opposite spouse, or you were married, or that you were just with this person. And now you're going to introduce them to an absolute stranger and ask this stranger for help. I mean, sometimes you just got to think about that. Like, how is that going to affect the kids? Which I can see how it can affect them in a positive way, and I think it can affect them in a negative way. In a positive way, I say this. I say that it opens up a door for a little bit more honesty and a little bit of truth, to where the child doesn't feel like, okay, I have nobody to talk to, so it's an outlet for them. And a lot of times when the kids have an outlet, it gives them an opportunity to express how they feel. And when you have an opportunity like that, kids are more open and honest because they're not around the parents. So sometimes it can give you a good aspect as far as like what the kid is really dealing with. And you got to think about that kind of stuff. Like, how is this going to affect the child? And that's something that sometimes we just don't think about, is how is it going to affect the child? And it can affect them in a positive way, and it could affect them in a negative way. But most of the time, you're going to see some type of positive effect because the child is open and honest about how they're feeling about a certain situation. They're able to talk to somebody about it. And that's something that it's so beneficial because you have a trained person, but at the same time, there's a thin gray area because it's like, but this is a complete stranger. So I would encourage people, if you went through a separation or some type of breakup, make sure that you're talking to your child, because a lot of times what happens is you're yelling and arguing with the significant other that you were previously with or married to, but now the thing is that you want to talk to your kids independently on your own, which is really good. You should do that. It's just the problem is that sometimes they're scared because the whole family has broken up, and now they might be scared to tell you certain things, because a lot of times from what I've seen personally is that kids feel torn in between the two. It's like, do I pick mommy's side or do I pick daddy's side? And kids shouldn't have to do that. Does it happen? Absolutely it happens. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's just kind of like human nature. And sometimes I think that depending on the sex of the child, they're going to pick, if it's a male, they're going to probably pick their father. And then if it's a female, they're probably going to pick the mother. And I just think they should spend an equal amount of time with both parents post-divorce or post-breakup, because it's just so important just for them to have those two good figures in their life. You being a father or a mother and having that quality time with your child to speak to them about certain things, because sometimes they feel like they can't open up to the other parent. And just always be open and honest. And I think one of the good things about that I do with my kids, especially my older son, because he's 7. Now the younger one, I try to do what I can, but he's 3, so he kind of understands things but kind of doesn't. But I tell my son, hey, I thought this was correct and I'm wrong about a certain thing. I know a good example. There was one time he had a soccer game. I looked in the calendar and it said he had a soccer game on I think it was a Sunday. And I thought it was the Sunday coming up. And I told him, hey, let your mom know your Sunday is right here on the calendar. This is what it is. So then later on, I see a message where his mom is asking the coach, hey, is the game today? Because my son said the game is today. And then she's like, no. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me go back and check the calendar. Was I wrong? I was wrong about the date. I wasn't wrong about the day. So I just told my son, I just called him, let him know, hey, look, Daddy made a mistake, and I want to let you know that I'm human and I make mistakes. I don't want you to think like I'm some type of superhero, because I do make mistakes. I want you to play soccer. I still want you to be in extracurricular activities because it's important. I just made a mistake because I thought that it was this Sunday and not the one next coming up after that. He wasn't mad or upset or anything, but I was open. I was open and honest, and I wanted him to know that no matter what the situation is, that he has an opportunity to be open and honest too with me about anything that he wants to talk to me about. And I think sometimes if we're open and honest with our kids, that they'll be reciprocated and they'll be able to do the same thing, and they'll be open and honest with you as an individual and as a parent. Because if you're not going to be open and honest with your kids, why would they be open and honest with you if you're always lying to them? They're going to feel like, okay, well, they lying to me. Why should I listen to them or tell them the truth? They probably going to start lying to you. Because I think that the biggest thing I've learned over time, and this is just even being in a relationship and having kids and then being out of a relationship and having kids, is that you always want to make sure that your actions are matching your words. Because it's not so much what you say to kids, it's what you do. You can say one thing and they're like, okay, I see what Daddy's saying. I understand where he's coming from. But they watch what you do, not what you say. Because there's been instances before where I've talked to my son about certain things, and I will say, hey, have you been going to church with your mom and stuff? He's like, no, we haven't been to church like in a while. I was like, okay, I'm not going to badmouth his mom or anything like that, or knock her or anything like that. But every single time I have my kids, I'll always take them to church that Sunday. And if we don't go to church, my son already knows, because I give you another good example. He knows that if we don't go to church, Daddy's probably tired, but he knows I'm about to get on YouTube and I'm about to get a channel on YouTube for kids on like a Sunday service. And he knows that, no matter what. And it backs up what I say when I tell him. I say, hey, no matter what the situation is, always, always, always remember, I'm your father and your mom is your mom, but always put God first. Always, no matter what. Sunday's the first day of the week, and you have to look at it from that aspect. Now, do I back up what I say? Absolutely, because I'm taking him to church on Sundays. Do I read the Bible to him all the time? No. Do we read the Bible together sometimes? No. He does have a Bible that, he reads sometimes. I'll have him read it maybe one day a week or a couple times a week. And sometimes, inconsistency. But what's not inconsistent is where I say put God first, Sundays first, and we're going to church every Sunday. There's no inconsistency with that. So he knows automatically, you know what, my dad always went to church. So if he has kids, that he knows that my father always took me to church no matter what the situation was or no matter what's going on. He always made sure that we went to church. And that's just the way it is. I tell her, hey, look, you don't want to be here or whatever it is that you want to do, because Sundays in this house, we're going to church. Now, whatever you do over at your mom's house, that's between you and your mom. But here, we're going to church. It's because it's consistency. And that's why when I say, as far as counseling and stuff like that, their kids are going to tell the truth. You put these kids in counseling, and they're going to tell it like it is, whether you like it or not. And when you go back and you look at them notes, you may not like the notes that the counselor put. But the fact of the matter is that majority of the time, 9 times out of 10, the kid is telling the truth. And if you really want to know what's really going on, look at those notes that the counselor has down, because the counselor has all these notes from every single visit. And I know this because when I personally go to counseling and I say, yeah, I think it's been a couple weeks or something, my counselor looks down at that paper, she flips the pages. Oh, no, Mr. Payne, it's been about 4 weeks. And I was, oh, okay, well, what can I say? What can I do? Because she has the notes right there. She knows every single thing in there is what we talked about. And it probably shows progress based on what we've been talking about. And you should see progress within your kids within, I would say, probably 3 to 6 months. I mean, when I personally go to counseling, it took me about 3-4 months to kind of really get going. Because emotionally, it takes a toll on you, physically, emotionally, and all that. And I mean, it's going to happen the same thing with kids. And I know me personally. Last I heard, I know because his mom my
kid's mom for my older son used to take him to counseling. Last I heard, he doesn't go. But I mean, it's probably a time when he needed to go. And I definitely think that if you're yelling in front of the kids, or people are getting hit, or there's drugs and stuff like that, it probably would be beneficial for you to take your child to counseling. And you just have to look on it, I guess I would say, like a case-by-case study and a case-by-case basis to see, is this beneficial for my child based on the situation? And that's the way I would look at it. Just look at it from that aspect and say, is it going to help my child? And that's the way you want to look at it. Not necessarily is it going to help my case, but what's best for the children. Just saying, it's one of those things, what's in the best interest of the child. So again, would I recommend counseling? I would probably say maybe 70% yes, but it depends on a case-by-case, study-by-study basis. My own kids go to counseling, I go to counseling, so I think counseling can be very beneficial. And that's just the way you kind of got to look at it. So this bird over here keeps on flapping his wings. But anyway, so look, hit subscribe, hit share, you already know. Hit that bell notification so every single time you know when I have my videos uploaded. I'm basically doing an upload Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And that's it. Holla at your boy. Peace. And you already know, hey, single dads thriving, like always.